Welcome to Threads of Gold. I'm Dana Susan Cruz. Today's guest is an author, a podcast host, a mom, a caregiver, and a true champion in the cancer community. She's here today to talk about her newly released children's book based on her son Michael. It's called Michael, the Boy Who Danced on the Waves. It also has a companion coloring book. Ashley's also working on some other projects that I would love to talk to her about today on the podcast, and I can't wait for you to meet her. You're going to love her as much as I do. Thank you for joining us and welcome, Ashley Kramer. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today on Threads of Gold, and especially considering everything that you've been through today and for the past few years. Um, I know I kind of want to chat with you about your children's book today, but I also think it's important for us to be able to go back in time a little bit to explain why this even exists.
Sure.
And if it's okay with you, do you mind talking a little bit about your husband and your children and your life prior to cancer?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you so much. I'm truly honored to be here. And yes, we've already had an interesting day, as you referred to, Dana Sue. So this morning, my son Michael, that we'll talk about, had a Newport placed. But I'm going to go back. So yeah, I was actually a dancer. I was on Broadway, had a beautiful life, met my husband. He was French. I was on tour in Europe, and we were in Paris. And in a rehearsal, the sound engineer from my show introduced me to his dear friend who is a sound engineer, and that was Patrice. He
Oh.
came to our show. He asked me out afterwards. We went out, had a beautiful time. I went back to New York, ended up getting a gig that took me back to Paris, and we fell in love and got married, three beautiful children. We ended up moving to Miami. So my three kids are Stephen, Michael, and Jennifer. And we ended up moving to Miami in 2003, which is quite a long time now. I can't believe we've been here that long. But and life was beautiful. I started actually a new career in early childhood education, and I had a studio. I taught all the kids in Miami. Ended up writing a program for Zumba called Zumbini. It's their early childhood program for music and movement. And my career was flourishing. My family was lovely, beautiful. And in 2014, my husband was feeling tired. He lost a little bit of weight, and then he was having his back pain. Did an MRI, and he called me from the hospital and he was like, they found a lump. They think it might be cancer. They want to do a biopsy. So, of course, I went to him right away. They did the biopsy. We knew by the next day that he had large B-cell lymphoma, which considered a treatable cancer. So we had, it was devastating, but at the same time, we're like, okay, he did have to get an Ommaya. So he had a regular port in his chest. He also had to have an Ommaya in his head because the tumor was right next to his spinal column. So they were worried about the cancer getting into his cerebral fluid. So
Right.
he had chemo also going through his cerebral fluid.
Oh.
Right on schedule. He did 5 cycles of chemo, and right on schedule, he went into remission. And we were like, yes,
Mhm.
beautiful, wonderful, danger averted. We learned so many lessons and perspective. And, we were so grateful.
And how old were the kids at that time?
So when he was diagnosed, well, I'm thinking they were 8, 10, and 12
Right.
when he was
Old enough
diagnosed.
to understand what's going on with their dad, for sure.
Old enough to understand, but still young.
Mhm.
So, but then a few months later, he was having back pain again. And he's like, my back, the cancer's back. And I was like, no, 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 it's not. It's just back pain.
Mhm.
But the cancer came back. And this time it was just his organs started shutting down. The chemo, it was just really too much for his body. His organs started shutting down, and his kidney was the worst. So he
Mhm.
went into kidney failure. His oncologist, who was very kind, said there was really nothing more he could do for him. we tried to get him into a clinical trial, but he didn't qualify at Dana-Farber and went for another opinion at University of Miami at Sylvester. The doctor, who ironically we know now again, second time around, but that's the next part of the story, was so kind, spent so much time with us, but really said, we can extend his life, we can extend your husband's life with chemo and dialysis, but it's quality versus quantity.
Mm.
And so we decided we were going for quality, and he went into hospice a few days later, and within 10 days, he passed away.
It was fast.
What It was so fast, which I'm grateful for that it was fast. And he was at home, actually. He was in hospice at home, which I'm also grateful for. I know some people questioned having kids, young kids, and having him at home, but he wanted to be home.
Of course.
And, when he passed away, I'm going to say it was actually beautiful. Like it was peaceful. And we were with him. It was the kids and I were sitting on the bed with him, holding him. We're literally saying the words, I love you, when he passed away, when he took his last breath. And, there was a bit of me that I was worried about my children seeing their father pass away, but for them as well, like they hold this memory of it was peaceful and beautiful, and they're sad and devastated. But I'm glad we were with him. I'm glad we were saying those words, because love is like, as you know, love is our theme.
Yeah.
And I always say, there was at that point. So then my kids were 12. My daughter was 12, Jennifer. Michael, my middle son, was 14. It was a week before he turned 15 to the day. And my older son had just turned 16. So they were still young, but old enough, as you said, to understand 12, 14, and 16, those years. And it was kind of like a choice, do you dive into the sorrow and self-pity, or do you rise up and continue? And we rose up and continued. And I really felt like, okay, this is the purpose now, to really go forward with so much love and perspective.
Hmm.
And
Were you involved at that time? Did you get involved with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society or anything like that?
that time I'd been in touch with them, but not really involved. I felt like I was working full time. I had my business, my career. Not that I was so focused on my career, but I was focused on making enough money so that my husband didn't have to worry while he was going through this. And the kids were young, they were doing all these activities. And at the time, I did isolate. I did what I tell people not to do. I kind of did put us in this bubble, which I've learned. I
Yeah.
put us in this bubble and I think I really wanted to protect my kids, from all the questions, from kind, wonderful people, but I think I wanted to protect them. So I
Yeah.
really didn't share a lot. In fact, a lot of people that I taught didn't even know we were going through it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
How did you manage? I mean, I don't know how you manage anyway, because look, I know you're about to dive into an even deeper part of this story, but every time I see you, you have this beautiful smile. You have this light that radiates out of your eyes, and I guess you're good at concealing your pain.
so there's a part of me felt like with Patrice, I was a little bit concealing. And also, though, I do have this passion for like inner peace and meditation and yoga and happiness. And in fact, after he passed away, I did a course on happiness. And I've brought that now to the oncology community, which I'm very grateful about. But yeah, I think that it has served me well that I went through that. Like it's called happiness, but it's inner peace. It's the book, if anyone might know it. It's called Happy for No Reason. It's by Marcy Shimoff. It's
Okay.
a beautiful book, and it gave me a lot of lessons, but a lot of it, I've learned through trial and error as well. There was some concealing, which was probably not so good for me. And then after that, it
Mm.
was, going through and then starting to connect with people. But The lesson really became, this is what I felt with my kids. It brought us so close. So even though I wasn't great at that time about reaching out with my kids, we talked a lot. Like
Good.
that was something that we did. We communicated a lot. They talked to me. They told me how they felt. They cried. Even my boys
Mm.
cried. And I joke that we didn't have a lot of terrible teenage years because they were going through this with their dad. So I started surfing, and that's going to tie into the next part of the story. I'd never surfed in my life.
Good.
And when Patrice got really sick, my boys were surfing a lot, and I would take them surfing all the time. And I was like, if I want to bond with them, I need to surf with them. So I was 47 years old and learning to ride a
Good
surfboard.
for you.
And I
Yeah.
always think that, sometimes as parents, we try to pull our kids into what we're doing and like, why don't they want to do stuff with me? But I think sometimes what you have to do is, what are my kids doing? And let's go do that thing.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
To dance on those waves.
Dancing on those waves. So that's part of the story, that it's very interconnected. But then it's true. So my theme after he passed away, my husband passed away, it was really like, okay, it's not what happens, it's how you react. And I really did start to embrace this like journey of going through a really hard tragedy, but still finding joy in life. And I really thought, I'm embracing this lesson. I'm doing this with my children. And we talked a lot about it, how their dad wants them to live. He wanted them to have joy. He would want me to have joy.
Mhm.
But then 4 years after he passed away, the lessons got tested because my middle child, Michael, was just also feeling tired, not back pain, not anything like that. And then he started to get fevers and night sweats. And this was actually in 2020 during the COVID lockdown. I thought my kid had COVID.
Of course.
Oh my gosh. And at that time, getting tested, like we had lines. You
Mhm.
would get in line at 5 a.m. to get a COVID test, and you would be there all day. And so I called his pediatrician. He was 19 at the time, but she's like a family doctor. So I called her and I was like, can you possibly see Michael and do maybe a COVID test? Because he's tired and now he just started getting fevers. She's like, yeah, bring him in. So I was just teaching, and I just reopened my studio with very small groups. And so my older son, Steven, took Michael. He went in to see his doctor, did a blood test. And she's like, she talked to me. She's like, he looks great. I don't think it's anything, but let's see.
Mhm.
Let's see. And that was on a Friday. On Monday, she called me and she said, I have a friend at Nicholas Children's Hospital. And I want him to see Michael. He's a blood specialist. She didn't say oncologist.
Mhm.
She didn't say hematologist. She's blood special. He's a specialist. And I was like, oh, are you worried? She said, well, I'm not sure. I'm not that worried, but I would love it if you would take Michael to see
In
him.
other
But I
words, yes,
oh,
I'm worried.
yeah. But she's like, I have to call because had just turned 19. She said, it's Nicholas Children's. I'm not sure it's a pediatric hospital. But the doctor, the office called me, and it's Dr. D, by the way.
Oh,
The
yeah.
office called me and said, yeah, come this afternoon right away. We can see Michael. And I was like, oh my God. So I called Michael. He was actually helping his friend move. He was lifting boxes. I
Mhm.
called him and I said, can you meet me at home? And I left my studio, went and picked him up, took him to the hospital. We really thought he's anemic.
Mhm.
I, this is another, I'm a vegan. He's not getting the red meat he needs. He's an athlete and, he needs a little more iron or something. That's really what I thought.
Mhm.
Wasn't COVID, we knew because they told us. Did another blood test with the specialist, and he's like, you know what, let's just do a bone marrow biopsy tomorrow morning. So we went back the next day, did the bone marrow biopsy. I really don't know why, but I wasn't thinking cancer, and neither I wasn't thinking cancer at all. He comes out of the biopsy and he's in the bed The doctor walks in, I joke, it's in the book that we're going to talk about, but he was this twinkly-eyed doctor. Everyone, of course, even in oncology, everyone wears masks, but he had on a mask and his eyes, when we met him, were like these twinkly, you could feel a smile. But
Yeah.
when he walked in after the bone marrow biopsy, he walked in and his eyes were not twinkly.
Mm.
His eyes were serious. And he sat down, and I will never forget the first words out of his mouth were, "What you have, what your son has, it's treatable. It's treatable. I'm going to start with that. But he has a form of blood cancer, leukemia or lymphoma." When he said lymphoma, I was like, stab me in the heart. My husband, it
Yeah.
was lymphoma. And of course, there's not a big difference between leukemia and lymphoma. It's very similar. It's pretty much the same thing. It's a blood cancer, has to do with the age of the cells. Um, and then we got on this roller coaster, and it took a moment to sink in. And I think my world stopped when he said that. But then, as a caregiver, it just like kicks in as a mom.
Mm.
And you're just like, okay, what do we have to do? And he started talking to Michael, which was a gift in pediatrics. And then I felt like, and I'm not going to criticize, but I felt like with my husband, that was my alarm to get on Zoom with you.
Oh my. Well, you're already here.
Let
I
me just
forgot we were early. I'm never early.
anyway, we'll see if that gets edited. But if anyone wants to know, we got on early.
You did.
Um, so yeah, with my husband, I always felt like I didn't really know his doctor. I didn't feel like Patrice was a number, but kind of. It was kind of like very routine. This is what he's going to do. These are the chemos. This. When he relapsed, the chemos didn't work anymore. That was it. That's it. And I didn't feel like we had a personal relationship. And I know it's not always the case in an adult hospital. That was our case where, with Patrice. So part of me, I was just terrified with Michael. And this doctor sat down and he spent about an hour talking to us and asked Michael, he said, okay, so we're going to know within 24 hours what kind of leukemia it is, because I think it's leukemia. You're 19 years old. I'm pretty sure it's leukemia. We'll know within 24 hours. We'll put in a PICC line. We'll probably start, chemo within 24 to 48 hours. And then we started talking, and he knew that Michael surfed.
Mm.
He asked Michael, what do you like to do? And he's like, well, I'm a sailor and I surf and I work out. He was like, oh, okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to beg the surgical team to squeeze you into the schedule tomorrow morning so you don't get a PICC line. Because those of you that don't know that are listening, a PICC line can't get wet. You
Right.
can't go in the ocean with a PICC line, but with a port, when it's healed between chemos, he could get in the ocean.
Right.
Right. So he made magic happen. And the next week, Michael was admitted. I was admitted. I say we were admitted because I
It's what we think. It's what we think.
never left his side. And we were admitted. The next morning, bright and early, they put in his first port. And that was actually July 16th that he got, no, July 15th. I'm sorry, July 15th of 2020, he got his first port placed. And he was supposed to start chemo, but the day went on, couldn't figure out what he had. The next day, so Michael stayed admitted, he started getting blood transfusions and he started getting sick. And he wasn't on chemo. It wasn't the chemo making him sick, it was the cancer at this point already. His doctor did start him on dexamethasone. And he saved his life by doing that, because he probably stopped the cancer from getting much worse. Because he said, no matter what kind of cancer you have, this will be part of the protocol. It's the one thing I can do without knowing what type of cancer. They put Michael on, it's a form of steroid, put him on the steroid. We were there for a week getting transfusions, platelets. After a week, Michael was stable enough to go home, still no diagnosis.
Right.
So for the next 2 weeks, we were at home. He had his port. He was recovering from the port. He was on steroids. And we would go to the hospital every other day, check his labs, got some transfusions. And then on August 3rd, so it ended up being 3 weeks after he got his port, they did give us the official diagnosis, which was hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, a very rare and aggressive cancer. But when he told us he was with his NP, his nurse practitioner, they both said, okay, you two, I'm going to tell you what it's called. Don't Google it.
Yeah.
Don't Google it. And people won't believe me, but I didn't. Neither one of us did for a while. I Googled it before Michael, but it took a while. I really trusted them because not that we got a lot of information. They gave me a lot of information about the chemos Michael was going to get about. There was no protocol for this cancer. There is still to this day, there's no protocol, which
Because it's so rare.
because it's so rare.
Yeah.
And so we know different people now that have had the same cancer, and everyone has had different chemos, different protocols. I remember, so Michael, when he started chemo, it was that week of August 3rd. He said, we're going to start this on Thursday will be his last day of chemo. You'll probably go home Friday. And on Thursday, I remember Dr. D rushing in and handing me a piece of paper. He's like, I just found this. I've been researching his cancer and I just found this. And this is another chemo that we're going to add on because I saw a study that this might possibly help. And he was also beautiful, this doctor. He was in a group chat with 5 other doctors, actually around the world,
Mhm.
3 more that were in America, one in South America and one in Europe. They were all chatting about hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, the best path to follow. So he was reaching out to other doctors. So we felt, at that time, I did reach out to LLS, had a lot of conversations with them. They were like, this is a really rare cancer. Do you need other opinions? And I was like, well, we've got 5. We have 5. And they all agreed on, and the same thing for when Michael was diagnosed. They had 5 different doctors. Michael ended up doing, I think he did 3 bone marrow biopsies in those 3 weeks because every time they would send them off to different pathologists because they wanted to be sure they all came to the same determination of what type of cancer it was.
Seeing a lot of pain from those biopsies.
He was in pain, but it was so like he was in pain with his port. And you could see it was like, it was strange. My husband went through this. It was about a 17-month journey. And the way he looked towards the end is already how I could see Michael looking in the beginning.
It was
And
so.
it was so aggressive.
I
And
think a lot of people don't understand this, but just blood cancer, because we're not talking about solid tumors here. We're talking
right.
about liquid cancer and it can become vicious and obviously his did.
And it became vicious quickly. Later, when I did, research the cancer, I found out that one of the reasons his cancer has about an average of an 8-month prognosis. But one of the reasons is because it's very hard to diagnose. And
Hmm.
what happens is in the time that people wait before they get the diagnosis, many people pass away or get too sick. So that's why I'm always like, his doctor, the fact that he started him on the steroids probably slowed it down.
Hmm.
Even though I could already see in those 3 weeks, thank goodness we went to the doctor.
Thank goodness your pediatrician didn't blow it off and act like it was just a flu or cold or something.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so grateful. Shit. Amazing team. I mean, we've just had blessing after blessing of like miracles.
You have.
And, we
And the 8-month thing is another example of a miracle you've had because here we are 5 years later, and although he's still battling this disease, or really it's graft versus host, right? But I mean, we can get into all that too, but I mean, he's still here.
he's still here. He's still here. It's a hard, it's hard. You wonder why someone passes away and someone
Mhm.
doesn't. You can't really go down that rabbit hole because I don't think we always know. And we
Well,
can,
good luck.
it's,
I
yeah,
mean, you know what I mean? Like Bill used to get frustrated. My husband Bill used to get frustrated because people would say and I know they mean well when they say this, but they would say things like, "Oh, so and so, you're so strong, so you'll beat this cancer." And he used to get frustrated because he would think about his little sister who died of her cancer at the age of 6, and he would be like, "It's like you're saying she wasn't strong, and that's why she's dead." And he would be like, "I've seen strong people die, and I've seen people who are just not strong at all survive. It has nothing to do with that."
Yes. Oh, we agree. We totally agree. And like what my husband died and Michael didn't die, like that's not like who knows why. We were talking before this, and I hope it's okay to say this, but this week we had two other cancer dear friends pass away. Both of them were strong, positive, optimistic, young, vital, didn't eat sugar. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, ate healthy diets, they were fit. And of course, I always want to encourage people, we are healthy people, we're fit, we eat well. Michael has a great diet. And of course, you encourage that, but you also never, ever can blame someone or and in the same token, it's hard. You don't want to give self not credit, but like Michael is amazing. Of course, he's amazing.
He very much is.
But like so was our many dear friends that have passed away that we've known in the past years have also been amazing and they passed away. So while we're here, it just makes us feel like while we're here, of course, we're going to have a great purpose. And we're going to do everything we can to advocate because no one knows why. I have a shirt that I wear that I made that says, "There is no why." I think that we don't know why, or it's above our pay grade.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out one day. And, I've had people say that, oh, my beautiful, wonderful family will say, but Michael's here because his purpose is to raise his voice. And you, Ashley, yes, but at the same time, it, you know, I don't know. I think there's no credit, there's no why. We do what we can. And if it motivates you to move mountains as much as you can, which it has for us. Like I said, the first time around with my husband, we were very quiet. I took care of my family. That was my thing. Now we have a different purpose. And, we didn't share much with my husband. With Michael, basically what happened is when he did start that chemo, because the cancer was aggressive, the chemo was so aggressive. And within like just a few days, like his hair was like coming out. And so I was like, "I'm gonna shave my head with you." He was like, "Mom, don't you dare shave your," he's like, "Don't you dare shave your head. I don't want to see you without hair." But his brother and his friends, I know, adolescents are like young people are so awesome. They shaved their heads with Michael. And it was super cute the same day. And I made a video, like they walked out of my house and I put like the Rocky theme music behind it. And they walked out and I was like, you know what? I'm going to post this on Instagram, which I wasn't big on share. Never shared anything about my husband, but I posted on Instagram. And then all of a sudden there was all this love. And I was like, oh my God, I was certainly missing this the first time around. And there was this great outpouring of love. And I just realized how important it was. And for us, it just was very organic and natural. We started sharing the story, and there was so much support. And people, will say, but don't you get the bad comments? A little, not so much. It's mostly love.
Yeah.
It's mostly, there's a few in there like, what did you do to get cancer? We've gotten some of those, but you just kind of learn perspective of we don't need, we don't know.
You can shut those voices out.
You can.
But you're
It
right.
takes
More
it.
people show love and compassion.
Yes. Yes.
Now, speaking of getting your story out there, I mean, you didn't just go to Instagram. I mean, you and Michael have a podcast. And
Yes.
do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So it started out that we were just doing Instagram and, you know, not me so much, more Michael was doing TikTok as well. I would post things, I would post updates, I would write kind of like blog updates. And but we realized with the Instagram and the TikTok, it was like 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And sometimes we wanted to just like talk. So we're like, you know what, let's do a podcast. And I will say this at that time, when we started it, Michael, he got through his bone marrow transplant. He almost passed away a few times during the transplant. We got home. And once we got home, within 2 weeks, we're back in the hospital. And he almost passed away from what you mentioned earlier, graft versus host
Who
disease.
was his donor?
His donor, so his brother and sister, unfortunately, his brother was a haplo, which is a half match, which we would have used if we needed to. And his sister was like a less than a half match, which is crazy. So we went through Be the Match, and he had an anonymous donor from Germany. And it was a 10 out of 10 match, but still, Michael ended up with graft versus host disease, which basically means like the donor cells, I know you know this, attacking your organs. And so for Michael, it started out just skin, which was not that big of a deal. You're like, okay, a little skin rash, we can deal with that. But then it went into his GI, and he almost passed away from GI, graft versus host disease. And then it moved from GI to liver. And
Goodness.
the liver was a hard one to get under control. So that took about 2 years. And we were basically living in and out of the hospital. But during that time, we thought after the bone marrow transplant, we're going to get to day 100. We're going to go back to life. He was going to go back to college. He was a freshman in college. He was going to go back to school. I'd go back to work. We would be like, yes, because the ultimate goal for us was the bone marrow transplant. Like that's what the oncologist had told us. That's what the bone marrow transplant was like. If you get to transplant, you're going to wipe out all of those cancer cells. You are going to be good. And I'm not saying he was giving us false hope. Definitely not. It was hope. And he is alive 5 months, 5 years later. But we did think that it was going to like BMT is the cure.
Yeah.
But BMT gave him another disease, which is what he does still live with today. And yeah, so in that time, he was in another hospital so much, and we're like, let's dig deeper from the Instagram and TikTok. And we're like, and we can do a podcast. A friend of his that went through cancer and a bone marrow transplant, they became friends because of that, had done like 6 episodes of a podcast he did. And then he stopped. And Mike was like, maybe we could do something like that. Just tell the story. And then we don't have to keep doing it once I get back to school and everything. So we started and we still do it. I'm editing a podcast right now.
Michael and
So
Mom Taught Cancer.
Michael and Mom Taught Cancer, and it started out sharing the story. And sometimes it's just the two of us talking, but now we also interview other cancer survivors. We've interviewed caregivers. We recently interviewed a doctor that's does clinical trials for glioblastoma. So it's all in the cancer world. But
It's a good show. Everybody needs to go listen to it.
thank you. It's been beautiful and it has bonded us. And we have spent a lot of time together, Michael and I. So we started doing rap videos at one point. We've made like, we're up to like 9 rap videos because
Fun. Y'all are fun.
we're gotta have some fun,
You
and
do.
it helped lift his spirits. And yeah, I think that we have found different ways to find joy. Connecting has been a big one. And that's like the podcast was a way of connecting. Finding joy through music, that's been the rap videos. And a lot of it is tongue in cheek because cancer humor,
Tumor
if you,
humor.
my gosh, cancer, the dark cancer humor, I think you gotta have it. Everyone that's been through cancer, probably, I would say most of them agree with that. Gotta have some humor around it. So we've got a lot of humor and we have to. I think it helps a lot. And we do have the spiritual side too. Like there's been humor, there's been connection, and there's been the spiritual side of holding on to hope and faith. And I think that I heard this beautiful thing. So we were at a funeral, or actually, yeah, on Sunday. And
One of the
for
kids you mentioned.
yes, a child that we know. And the priest said something beautiful about prayer that sometimes we pray for people and they don't survive and we think our prayers weren't answered, but that prayer is also for the person praying.
Mhm.
It is that connection, and it does change you when you are praying, you are connecting and you are connecting. And I think that that's been a big part of it for us, is knowing that people are praying for us. It just gives you a sense of love, and praying for someone else gives you a sense of love and connection. And sometimes the answer is not that that person is going to be healed. And that is also hard, but it's okay,
Yeah. No,
you
you're
know.
right. Praying does lift your spirits, even, yeah, it's an act. It's an action word. It kind of feels like it's not an action, but it is an action.
I believe it is an action.
Yeah.
I
So,
believe.
um, I mean, we're going to talk about the children's book, but
I
since
talk so much. Sorry.
because you said all that, that made me think about the fact that you are also right now working on the caregiver manual. Do you want
Yes.
to talk about that? Because I think if anybody can write a good caregiver manual, it's you.
You're so it is important to me. So we're going to talk about the story that you just published, which is the children's book. But I am, and that was a work of heart. And that actually happened, when Michael was admitted for every time he'd be admitted. So I did journal, and journaling is so good. It's another practice that does help with inner peace. And people don't always want to do it. And you don't always want to face writing because the thoughts that you write, sometimes you don't want to see them. And I did a lot of writing, but there was a day that I was with Michael in the hospital. And instead of writing about what was going on or what I was feeling, I wrote, "Once upon a time, there was a boy named Michael." And
Mm.
it became this story. And I started just writing his story of hope. And that's the book that you have recently published, which I am grateful beyond grateful, but I am also working on
It's
a caregiver.
right here.
I've got it too. I love this story. It's so
I'm-
sweet. Thanks to you for making it come alive. And I wrote it for myself, and I'm glad I shared it with you. And so this book is a story of hope. And I think the caregiver manual is also, it is also hope. And it's not finished yet, but it will be soon. It's not a big, thick book. I want people to be able to open it because the books that helped me were the ones I could open to a page and I could read something and get something and I could close it. And those were the things that helped me. So that's what this is. It's what we call pockets of peace, what Michael and I would call pockets of peace. And it's pockets of, I don't want to say advice, but kind of pockets of things to do to maybe help make it easier or reinforce what you're doing, give you connection. You're not alone. And that is the next thing that it will be coming through Bellasteria as
Well,
well.
I cannot wait. I can't wait for that. And, I think caregiving is such a tough role to tackle because you're so tired, but it's not that just like a physical tired, you're mentally exhausted, you're spiritually wiped out, you're so drained, and you feel this constant pressure. I mean, I know I'm mostly just speaking for myself, but others have told me they feel this too, but you just feel this constant pressure to make that patient feel good and be on your A game all the time. And if you have little kids in the home, you got to make sure they're okay. And you got to make sure everybody who asks about the patient, you want to make sure you're positive and upbeat while also being honest. And it's just a role that's really hard.
And you do it beautifully and with so much grace. You are,
Not always. I'm not like you. I don't always have a smile on my face when I do it.
I don't know, you're pretty awesome. But it is challenging. I think caregiving, it is, and it's a catch 22. Like I think that we can search and people will say, okay, what can we do to make it perfect? It's not. It's there is a catch 22 that you cannot do it all.
No.
There is something that you cannot do. And I think part of caregiving is like at one point you have to accept that you cannot do everything and accept that you are going to be tired. And that when people, it's sometimes hard, people say, I'm sure you've heard this, and every caregiver hears this, don't forget your self-care, take care of yourself. And you're like, you want to say, of course, thank you. And you want to say, what are you talking about? I do not have time.
Yeah.
It is challenging. It is challenging. And you can't always give in to how you really feel. You can't. You can maybe have a moment though. We talk about it, like go in the shower and maybe have a little breakdown.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it's a really hard, and it's hard, it's like the spiritual stress, the emotional, the mental, and then there is like the financial stress
Yeah.
or the practical of like getting the groceries. And if you have other children or other family members, I know now there's a lot of caregivers that we call that sandwich generation. You've got the adults, but then there's people like us, you've with your husband, and you're young. It's not like caring for your husband when you're like in your 70s and 80s. You're caring for your husband very young, and
Oh,
that's
I can tell you this just from recent events in my life. Bill was diagnosed with lymphoma when I was 33.
Right.
And then fast forward to this year, and he had that cardiac arrest, and I'm 55. And I even made this comment to my mom, like, there's a big difference between being 33 going through this and being 55. It's just, I feel my age now. Like, so yeah, if I were 70, he better stay healthy, that guy.
You're so, first of all, you do not look 55. Like I would never, I had an idea because the age of your kids, but you do not look 55.
Think it's the light on my, it's taking away the wrinkles. Not really. I don't know.
You have no wrinkles, woman. You
But
are go
never had
gorgeous.
Botox. So, and I don't want to get it. I have this thing where I tell people I like the wrinkles that I have because they all tell a story. Like
Yeah.
this one right here, that spills cancer. This one right here, that's when my daughter fractured her skull. And I could go on and on and on about what every wrinkle on my face represents. It represents a life that's been lived. So,
That is beautiful. And that's what I love sometimes in other cultures, not so much in America, that we embrace that as like me. I know this is hard to see on Zoom, but I'm turning gray.
oh,
A
me
little,
too,
you
right
know.
over here.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I don't want to diet because first of all, when you're a caregiver, when am I gonna have to, if I ever did diet, like there's a day I could do it, I would end up with like these roots. I'm just embracing the gray, embracing the wrinkles. And I do, you know what, it does tell a story. And that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay. It's
our
okay.
stories are big. Yours is bigger than mine for sure.
Oh
Um,
no, yours
I
is,
I want to say something about this children's book though,
yes, I know. We need to,
because one of the things that hit me when you first sent me, and this is before the art had been done and everything, but you sent me the text, and I remember thinking to myself, how on earth does she do this? She's writing a story about this little boy, and this is all based on Michael, about this little boy that loves to go surfing, and he lives this happy life on the beach, and he gets diagnosed with cancer, and it takes you through all of this. Yet somehow there's joy on every single page, and it ends on this, like, I don't know, you just feel hopeful when you read it. And then
it,
you go and you had an illustrator, and I hope to have her on this podcast soon too. Emily
yeah,
Simpson, a high school student, did all of the art, and it wasn't digital art. I mean, she did all of it by hand. And it's so precious. It's just sweet.
it's so sweet. I just love her. I remember when you and I talked and you said, I'm looking and there's a high school and I'm seeing if anyone is interested. And you sent me, I guess, like the cover, what has become the cover was her
Yeah.
first artwork. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this girl. And we bonded, and she's just a love. And she's been through her own, not cancer, but she's been through her own stories. And she's so young, but she's just sensitive, and you feel her hope as
Oh,
well.
you do. I felt, and she was always just so willing to. And not that I know, when someone sends me art, I think, wow, that looks great. But she would say, oh, wait, I want to change the shadow here, or I want to change the color over here. And I was like, I don't have an eye for that. So I'm always in awe of those little things. But she cared. It's like she cared to make this a precious little book for you, and I hope that she illustrates more books in the future, and I love finding younger students like that to do sometimes do the art for our books. We have some, older experienced artists too, but I like finding new talent because I like introducing this idea to them that maybe, just maybe, they could do this
Yes.
life. Like maybe they have a talent that they could use it in the future. So I hope she does. I hope she'll do more books for us.
I hope so too. She is a love and a light. And the team working with you and Emily, it was just like this sweet little team, like full of hope and good energy. And it was beautiful. And I just want to go back and say thank you for your kind words. For me, it has been a story of hope. And there, you know, I want to say this because with Michael, there was a brief moment that he definitely lost hope. And it was around the time that I was actually writing this. And then, we talked a lot. We were together all the time, and he was in the hospital, and we're using music and meditation. And there's a moment it was like, you know what? What if you do die? Like, we were at that point that it was likely that he was going to die.
Mhm.
No one had ever seen someone with his liver the way it was with GVHD come back.
Mhm.
And it's like, what if you do? Do you think that and this was a conversation. This wasn't me preaching to my kid. I was like, maybe it's better that we just live with like this hope while you are alive, because we're not going to change the outcome. Like, do we want to live in this depression for these last moments, or do we want to live with joy in the last moments? No, because we don't know what either way, the outcome is going to be the outcome. So
Mhm.
you might as well just live with joy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he was like, oh, okay, yay. But it was a process. And then it became right. And I don't think that I'm not going to say that's what saved him at all. I'm not going to say that. I don't think that's what saved him, to be honest. I think it was a blessing and luck and whatever. He lived still, but he's still in it. But whether or not he was going to die, might as well have hope and joy and love while you're alive.
True. That's a good message. And he's an interesting age. He's in that AYA
Yes.
group, which I have so much love and passion for. That AYA group that gets so easily missed and lost sometimes in the mix because it's just different. It's different to be a teenager and young adult with cancer.
It
And
is.
it changes your future, with him with college, for example. And some people they're trying to maybe date or get married and have babies and a career, and there's cancer.
Cancer.
It's a thief. But he, I've seen him when the two of you speak at Cure Fest or listened in on your podcast, and it just feels like he does carry that hope and he carries that joy with him.
He does. He really does. And it has been challenging. And yeah, he was diagnosed when he was a freshman in college, and he still hasn't been able to go back. And right now he's doing one class online, but it's a challenge because we're still in the hospital, I would say 2 to 3 days a week, 4 days a week, sometimes that we're still in the hospital. So it's hard to keep up with college. And sometimes he's like, oh my gosh, now I'm 24 and I still don't have a college degree. That's not what we imagined for this kid. But he certainly has a life degree.
He does.
He does. And it is different. Like, dating is different. We also know he's sterile, and that's different.
Mhm.
And
That so many of these kids have to deal with
yeah,
the
and
many challenges.
many challenges. So this age, I think it is really challenging. And he's, 24. I know times are different now, but he's living at home with his mom. And I think, his brother at 22 finished college and moved into his own place. But it's a different life. And we're like roommates, and we share our podcast. We're still together, and I am his caregiver and I am his mom as well. But I'm glad that we share this. We share a lot of love for each other. He does have friends that he hangs out with without his mom. But friends, but his friends, like, he has wonderful friends. Those ones that shaved his head are still close to him, but they don't quite understand. Like, sometimes they'll be like, Michael, come out with us on a Friday night. And he had treatment all day. He's like, I'm too tired. They'll be like, Michael, come on. Well, how can you be tired? And they tease, but they also don't really understand. As much as they're wonderful, they can't understand.
Did they?
How could they? And I'm so glad they don't understand. I don't want them to understand
They never have to understand that.
that they never have to understand this. And he does have friends in the oncology world, because now we have a whole community and they get it. But a lot of them aren't people that live where we live. So those are more the friends that DM, text, call, FaceTime. And the friends that he sees in person are, it's different. It's
Different. Yeah, Bill and I feel that too, being so connected to the childhood cancer community. I feel like include you in this, like we're a tight-knit group, right? Like we put on our gold and we all kind of start to get to know each other in a way. And I always say my gold family. That's what y'all are.
yes, it is. It is our family. I do a caregiver support group, and it's been now almost 3 years. And a lot of them have been in that group a lot of that time. Some people come and go, and some people, stay. Just depends on life. Not, I think one is in Miami, which is where we live, and all the rest are around the country. And I feel like they're my besties.
Hmm.
Most of them I've never met in person. I've met one in person, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it
I
is.
feel like I know them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we have modern technologies so that
Yeah.
we do that. I mean, like here we are on Zoom. You're in Miami and I'm in Fort Worth and we're right here in the same room. Isn't
I
that
feel,
great?
I know we're in the same room. I feel like I know you so well. It's crazy. And
I know it's because we got to work on this book and we're going to do another one. And I real quick need to throw out this one too, because this is the
yeah,
color book based on the book you wrote. And it's just, we took Emily's art. And so
I love it.
got coloring pages. It's got activities that are all beach themed, of course, because you're a beach family and it's a beachy book. But next month I will be in Washington, D.C. at CureFest. I'm hoping I'm going to see you there too. And I'll
That is our goal.
these coloring books. So
Yes, and we have an Amazon wish list, and I've already received a bunch of
oh,
books. The
good,
plan is,
good.
yes, the plan is to pass some out. And
And
yeah,
autograph.
yeah, of course.
Well, now, real fast, what did Michael think of the book when he saw it?
He loves the book. Of course, I read it to him right when I wrote it, which I never planned to actually have it published. I wrote it just because I wrote it. And when we were at CureFest last year, I was talking to a mutual friend that was like, you should meet Dana Sue.
Was that
And
Laura or was that Mark Levine?
it was both.
Both of them. Okay.
So it was both. It was Laura. Mark was the one. So Laura wanted me to meet you. She's with the American Cancer Society because
Cool.
she wanted us to meet, but she didn't know that I wrote. But Mark, who we've been on his podcast,
Love
knew that I wrote. I
him.
love Mark Levine. He's a wonderful human. And he said, I know you write. You should talk to Dana Sue.
It was confirmed, you know.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll share the book with her. And yeah, so it happened from there. And I love the coloring book. Even Michael, at 19 years old, 20 years old, when he was in the hospital, especially because we were in a pediatric hospital, we would like get activity books, and the two of us would be so, even when you're older, you still have fun doing this. We would literally color. Oh my gosh. We
That's
had
why
one.
we do them because it's fun stuff to do when you're sick or in the hospital.
It's fun. There was one of the nurses that would like sometimes print out activities for us. Like it was a joke, but she would print out, like Michael at that time was like 2021. She would print out and she would like leave them on the bed. And it was like a kind of a joke, but we had so much fun doing it. So I love the activity book. I love the book.
You
It's
too.
beautiful. I cannot thank you enough for trusting me, for sharing this. And I have to say this one thing, the child life specialist that was with Michael when he was diagnosed was on the oncology floor. Since then, she's been promoted and she's the child life specialist of the entire hospital, like the lead. And she got the book and she messaged me today, just before this, how much she loved it
Oh,
and
good.
sharing it with all the child life specialists in the hospital. And it was a very beautiful message. I was like, yes, if Ellie loves it, my heart is full.
Well, good. I mean, this is the goal. We want to touch lives with these things. And gosh, I cannot believe we ended up getting to have such this nice long conversation when I think about what all you've been in the hospital all day and here you're.
Energized me, woman.
Yay! All right. Well, I had it planned. My year obviously was was not like what I thought it was going to be.
I
Things
know.
happen in life, you know. But I had always thought when your book was launched, I was going to get on a plane and I was going to go to Miami and we were going to sit on the beach and talk about the
Yeah.
book and but life happened. So I hope to see you next month in Cure Fest. And for anybody who's watching this on YouTube or listening in on our podcast, go to Michael and Mom Talk Cancer.com
Yes.
and
Yes.
check out the podcast and go buy this book. And when you buy it, buy 10 more to send to kids in hospitals.
Yes,
Now we
please.
have proof that child life specialists like it.
And Dr. D,
And
I
Dr.
have like pictures of him signing the book, and he, as soon as it
Oh,
came out, he bought it
oh,
and he messaged me how much he loved it, and I was honored. So that
I
also
love that.
very
I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, well, hugs to Michael, and
yes.
I will see you next month, okay?
I love you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much, Dana. So I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you to Ashley Kramer for joining as my guest. To know more about Ashley and her son Michael, visit michaelandmomtalkcancer.com, where you can listen into their podcast or find out more about the book that Ashley just published, Michael, the Boy Who Danced on the Waves, or any other upcoming books that she's also working on. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.